Good afternoon and welcome to RPG Storytelling. Today is April 2nd, 2021, the day after April Fool's Day. And we've got a lot of fun things that we're going to be talking about in today's live Q&A. Today's going to be a day where you can join in our conversation and ask questions and talk about various things. Today's topic is going to be all about various ways that you can role play your character's backstory. And to do that, we're actually going to be bringing in my wife, Dr. Amy Flowers, who is a long-time RPGer. She's been playing RPGs for the better part of the last 20 years or so. So we're going to do a deep dive into her brain as far as how she goes about role-playing some of the characters that she develops. I know when we had her on a couple months ago, we talked about some of these things and different topics about her specifically. But today we're going to be offering up as many options as possible that we can think of anyways, and that maybe even you can think of, that will help both experienced and new players to be able to better role play their characters at the table or on screen, depending on how you're actually playing your games right now. But before we do the jump into all of that, let me run through a couple of announcements really quickly. First off, this just happened a couple weeks ago. I wanted to say thank you to all of our amazing followers. I want to say I'm going to stumble over my words here. Thank you so much for following us here on Twitch. Thank you for supporting us and loving us, and taking time out of your schedule to join us and support us. Because of you and your efforts, we reached the Twitch affiliate level, which means that we can now offer subscriptions. We can offer new emoticons, which I will actually post all three of our current emoticons that we have on there, so you can see what we have so far. We're going to be getting a ton more, and it's just a whole lot of fun with this whole Twitch streaming service as far as what we can actually offer. And through your subscriptions, we are actually able to bring you even more of what you love about RPG storytelling, meaning more Grain Prompts Live, more live Q&As like this, and we're also able to offer you more Questlandia games. But I'll bring that up again in just a second. But so thank you for all of our Twitch followers, all of our Twitch subscribers. Thank you for everyone that's loved us and supported us. Transitioning out of that one, I want to say that we now actually have a full website as well, which will contain everything that you love about RPG storytelling. So if you go to rpgstorytelling.com, you'll find all of our grain prompts that I'm turning into full blog articles to offer you even more information about each prompt. You'll find all of our live streams, like what you're watching right now. Those are all converted to YouTube videos, and then we link them into our website so that you can watch them anytime you want, as often as you want. Rewatch them as many times as you want, even, just to keep the information right there at your fingertips, make it easy to find for you. You'll find other blog articles on there. You'll find a section on the homepage that at least links in our Instagram account, so you can see what we're posting on our social media. If hopefully sometime in the near future, we'll be putting up some downloadable templates. These are things that you can download and print out or use on your computer screen to help you to even better craft your characters' backstories as you're going through. So this way you can download the templates, fill them out, and just hand that over to your DM or your game master or lore keeper or whoever's leading your games, so that they can more efficiently bring your character into the story. And speaking of story, I wanted to mention that we actually had our Questlandia games. So what Questlandia is is twice a month. We or on the second and fourth Fridays of each month, we have a one-shot game that we play, and these every game is going to be different. It's not just going to be Dungeons and Dragons every time. We're going to bring in some Call of Cthulhu, some Warhammer, hopefully, some Pathfinder, possibly Starfinder, Star Wars. As soon as the new Stargate SG-1 RPG comes out this year, we'll probably be including some of that in here as well. And then whatever other games we can think of to throw at you to keep it enjoyable for everyone. One of the things we love to do with Questlandia is to make it so that it is completely beginner friendly, meaning that if you would like to join our games, all you have to do is just jump onto our Discord server, which you can actually find linked in the About section below this video here on Twitch, or you can find it on the Questlandia page on our website as well. You can hop into our Discord and let us know that you wanted to join our Questlandia games, and you can actually take part and play these games with us. We adjust the time of starting the games on each Friday that we play, so as to accommodate as many people around the world as possible. If you tuned in to our game on March 26th, we had 3 players that were from Europe, and a little bit further than Europe. And so we adjusted our start time to an earlier time to accommodate them, since they are so much further into the future, than I am here in California. So we try to adjust it as well as we can so that we can get as many players as possible. And then we also do it so that if we have even one person at the game table or in any particular game that has never played a game before, or has never played RPGs before, or has never played that particular character class or whatever before, we try to run it as beginner friendly as possible, meaning that we take pauses, we do coaching and teaching and showing the different things that a character can do in certain situations and what they can do with their specific actions and spells and weapons and whatever else they have available to them, to keep the game as fun for them as possible so that they can develop a real love for it. And speaking of which, I want to bring in my wife, Dr. Amy Flowers, who will be leading our very next game this coming up Friday, April 9th. And Amy, why don't you tell us what game you're going to be leading for us?
Hi. So coming up, we have a great little game called Herbal's Fools. It's a little bit April Fool's themed, perfect for this month, the beginning of April here. And the basic premise of the story is that there is a goblin causing a little bit of a ruckus with a certain magical item. Some of you may be familiar with this magical deck that causes quite a bit of chaos. So if you can guess what I'm referring to there, then I'm guessing that you have met this magical deck before.
Would that by chance be
see what I'm talking about later.
Would that by chance be the deck of many things?
It would. So if you've encountered this deck before, then you know what kinds of chaos and fun we can get into with that. So this goblin has been basically inhabited by a trickster god and has been causing chaos with this deck. And your job in this one shot is to track him down and to stop him and to end the chaos, essentially.
That sounds like fun. One of the great things that I'm really looking forward to with this game is that instead of taking on the DM role like I have with the last 2 games, I'm going to be turning that role over to Amy, who is going to be leading the game. So, which means I actually get to play in this one, which I'm really looking forward to, because most of the games that I'm part of right now, I lead instead of play it. So it's a whole change of pace. I love it.
It's fun to switch seats every now and then, as much as I love playing versus DMing, they're both really fun to do no matter where you're playing. But if you do one all the time, it can get a little bit like, I'd love to be a character now, So it's good to be able to switch roles now and then.
Exactly. What time on April 9th should we be looking for this game?
It looks like we're going to be starting probably about 3 p.m. Pacific, but that might shift a little in one direction or the other depending on the players' needs. I think we have some players from all around the world right now, so we'll see if that goes a little in one direction or the other.
Very fun. Let's see, trying to think if there's anything else about Herbal's Fools that we can talk about to entice our viewers to come join us, even more than I know they already want to. Let's see.
I have my own little trickster god over here who wants his dinner.
Well, he can wait. Completely went off track there. Where'd it go? Before I get too far in, chat. If you have any questions at all, feel free to throw them in chat, and we will shoot them over to Amy, and we'll discuss them back and forth, just to keep everything going as smoothly as possible. That way we can have you included in our community as well. So what were you going to say, Amy?
So I think probably the other most enticing thing I can add to Herbal's Fools is you'll get to see me behind the fancy chair instead of playing. So that'll be fun. Don't forget, of course, that we are open to guest DMs in addition to guest players on all of these Questlandia games. So if you are interested in being a guest DM and running a game for us, please let us know, and we will happily let you do that. So you'll get to see me trying to do voices and all kinds of fun things like that, and I'm not nearly as good at it as Sarah is, but I will try, and it might be funny and entertaining watching me do that.
Can you give us some examples of voices that you might attempt or try?
Oh, I don't know if I'm ready on the spot, but maybe you'll hear a little goblin voice like this, or something that is a bit of like a goblin or something like that. I don't know.
I love it. I'm looking forward to hearing more of that one. So speaking of you getting to roleplay many different characters via being a dungeon master, the topic that we're going to be mainly talking about today is various ways to roleplay a character that you've written a character backstory for. I know that when we talked with Amy a couple months ago, it was mainly about how she goes about creating characters and figures out their backstories and things like that. So today we're going to actually focus on the role play aspect of creating those backstories. I've already discussed this possibility with Amy, so there's no surprise for her. But we're actually going to be using one of her brand new characters that she's playing in a home game that I lead with some friends of ours. We're going to be using her character Dagger Paws to kind of example some of these ways that you can role play a character's backstory. So before we jump too deep into it, Amy, what all can you tell us about Dagger Paws?
So just as a reminder from when we talked about her a couple months ago, Dagger Paws is a Tabaxi Blood Hunter, which is the new class from Matt Mercer. It's not necessarily an official class, it's his homebrew class that he offers up. But you can find all of the information for it on D&D Beyond and Roll20 if you're interested in this class. very cool, kind of a blood magic type class. Takes a little bit of ranger and mixes it with a little bit of kind of blood magic type stuff for the class. So the backstory that we developed has, hey, knock it off over there. Sorry.
Gotta love the cats.
Trickster gods, right? The backstory that we developed for her has her living in this secret little society of tabaxi blood hunters, where as she was training for her sort of elite regiment, she tried out a new spell and it went horribly wrong and killed a lieutenant in her regiment. So she had to flee this society where she had formerly lived. And she ended up spending some time at this monastery where she met some friends there. It was a place where a lot of people, they take in a lot of people who have been in tough situations. And then from there, she just sort of went off on her own to try and find a way to sort of cleanse her soul of the wrongs that she did. And when I bring her to life, you know, she has this sort of hesitancy and hurt in using her magic now because it killed someone that she cared about. And so, you know, a lot of what I do when I'm having her in combat now, I have that hesitancy to like, oh, should I even use this? Is it going to hurt someone else now? You know, so she has these abilities, but, you know, she's very hesitant to use them. So it's very easy that's a very easy point to sort of put into that character. Some of it is not so straightforward. You know, how do you, what other kinds of things would that person sort of want to act like after going through that kind of stuff? So, you know, it's really just a matter of thinking about, if I had gone through that myself, how would I think and feel and act? And then sort of doing that as you go through stuff. And you are being a lot of trouble over there, aren't you? Stop it.
Oh, gotta love the cats.
Yes.
If you need to get up and go feed him real quick, don't worry, I can cover for a minute or two.
Okay, why don't you comment on what I just said while I take care of him?
Okay, so with Dagger Paws, what we have is a character that has a lot of skill that she's still beginning to develop. She is, if I remember correctly from what Amy has told me about Dagger Paws, they are pansexual, if I remember correctly. I'll have her correct me when she comes back. So within her society, sexuality is not much of an issue because it just happens. But through some turn of events that we'll uncover in game, I'm sure Amy already knows all of the details on this, we'll uncover exactly what happened that led to Dagger Paws having to leave their community as an aspect of what happened from her using her skills and her talents and her gifts of blood magic. And then other things we'll look at are things that Dagger Paws does now that are a direct reflection of what happened in that early stage of her life. So, Amy, okay, I completely drew a blank. Did you, before you went and fed the cats, did you tell how Dagger Paws actually left the community and the reasoning behind that?
So she actually fled in the night because of the accident that occurred. They were going to arrest her because it was very clear that she was responsible. So she had to run.
Okay, so let's focus in on that for a moment in trying to uncover how players can role play these various things from their character's backstory. If you were to do so, how would you role play the fear and anxiety of realizing what you had unwittingly done to cause this accident, if it's even actually your fault, and how would that fear and anxiety play into your character as far as needing to run away?
So, to me, kind of thinking about the situation, if it was like me personally, I might have sort of a long-standing fear of authority, especially like actual like cops and stuff. Even though she comes from sort of a secret society and no one else may actually know what happened or that anyone should be after her, she might just have this sort of irrational fear that, cops might know she needs to be arrested. So she might get a little nervous around them and think that they're paranoid that they're after her. So, you can kind of play that up a little bit in situations where you're going through towns or things like that, where, whenever someone like that is around, she kind of wants to push into the background and keep away from those kind of people.
Okay. So fear of authority, hiding in the shadows, almost sounds like you're playing a rogue of sorts. From what you know of the Blood Hunter class, how much similarity does it have to the rogue, specifically for Dagger Paws?
A little bit, not a lot. I would say in terms of other classes, it has the most similarity actually to a ranger. But then it has the added magical aspects on top of that as well. So not really necessarily very roguish. There's not a lot of similarity there other than in how you might role play certain aspects.
Okay.
Depending on your character story.
Right. And with Dagger Paws being kind of afraid of authority and wanting to kind of shy away from possible encounters with those authorities, if presented with the situation where Dagger Paws needs to encounter authority figures, whether it be the castle guards or other authorities like that that have that law side behind them, how would Dagger Paws react and act in those situations? Hopefully that made sense.
So let's say that the group wants to, go speak to, the king or something to talk about a mission the king has in mind for them. Dagger Paws might be hesitant to go into the castle. She might want the group to go for her. Or, if she goes at all, she might just be very quiet and nervous and maybe let everyone else do the talking for her. So, there's a lot of ways that you can play that nervousness, or maybe she'll just be very fidgety the entire time, and try to find some comfort object. My character has her religious object that she could maybe be fidgeting with the entire time.
Okay. Since we've got a couple of new people in the chat, I just want to let our wonderful fans and audience know that if you have any questions for Amy, feel free to throw them in chat, and I will throw them over to her so that she can answer them. I don't know if she's got Twitch up on her side, so I don't know if she can actually see them or not, but I will read them off so that everybody can see them anyways.
Hello, everybody.
So we've got Air Brandy and Moriva are both in chat right now. Let's see. Okay, what I'm going to do, since we've got a little bit of that backstory for Dagger Paws now, I want to throw some random situations at you and see how Dagger Paws would interpret those, and how you as a player might role play those. Does that work for you?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the most recent grain prompts that I had put out as a character backstory prompt for our followers is say that Dagger Paws, I know this isn't actually the case, but say that Dagger Paws was in a community where something cataclysmic happened, and Dagger Paws was the very last member of her tribe still alive, or so she thinks. How would Dagger Paws interpret that, and how would you roleplay that?
I guess the important question there is, does she feel like she is at fault for whatever the cataclysm is, or is it very clear that it was something bigger than her that caused it?
Okay. So Dagger Paws would think that she caused it. How would you roleplay that?
If she thinks that she caused whatever happened, that would probably cause a huge downward spiral in her mental health, because she has already caused one major issue, one major death, at least that she thinks is definitely her fault. Even if it was an accident, she still thinks that's definitely her fault. So now if she causes an even bigger accident that kills everyone that's left, this would cause a huge downward spiral in her mental health. Dagger Paws, I think, would just completely retreat into herself and completely reject her magical side and focus on her other abilities, and try to find other ways to be, something different from whatever she thinks caused that issue. Whether it's, praying to her goddess for, some way to change herself or move past that, then, you could have her sort of obsessively praying every night. Every time you're resting, she's obsessively praying until she finds some way to move past that. That would be, one great way to role play that.
Mm-hmm.
Refusing to use whatever spell or other magic she thinks is at fault for that is another great way to do that. Even if some of these things are very not beneficial to your group, role playing them accurately is an awesome way to be, true to your character. So it looks like we have a question here. Mariva says, my question is this: how can I tailor my tabaxi to be a more serious night? And would Dagger Paws want to role play something with Willie? For Mariva, I would just think about in your particular tabaxi sort of clan, what what does it mean to be a serious knight? Think about sort of the culture and the things that you would have been raised to believe in that make you a serious knight. Is it sort of traditional knight things that we think about when we think about medieval knights? Or are there other things that you need to be besides just chivalry and the other stuff? And so put that sort of list together in your mind, and then keep that in your mind when you're role playing that, as you sort of work on that sort of character. And then absolutely Daggerpaws would love to role play together with Willie. We are going to be, in a group for a while now, so we can definitely work together and role play together.
Yeah, definitely. The good thing about starting this campaign that we're running, that we just started last Saturday, so it's like session 2 tomorrow, is that with this campaign, it's going to be a long game. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for role play between the characters and between various NPCs that'll come up throughout the game. And there's going to be a lot of character development over that time period. So for Mariva, even if you don't have Sir William completely nailed down right now, as far as how you want him to be, his personality and everything, one of the good things about these games is that it's a development over time. So you can start out one way and then get a few games in and say, I'm not feeling this so much, so I'm going to change up how I do it. So you do kind of a gradual transition into the new version of what you want Sir William to be like. One thing I will say is with Dungeons and Dragons, for those that use the character personality type things that are inherent or that are kind of built into the game's character sheet, excuse me, is that it gives you several different options that you can pick out that kind of fit with your vision of the character. And what you can do is you don't have to use those as part of the backstory per se, but you can kind of use those as kind of little prompts, like little mental prompts for different ways that you can play your character at the table. So, for instance, there might be one that says, my character loves art and loves to appreciate all things of beauty. So, in game, what you would do is you would take that and think about it a little bit and say, okay, there's beauty everywhere in the world. There's also a lot of ugliness. How can I play out that appreciation of beauty? And do I find all things beautiful, or is there just specific things that I find beautiful? And then you kind of play the back and forth of that within your character so that you can actually unravel who your character is. So I know that going back to Daggerpaw's backstory, one way that she accesses her magic is a very unique thing that Amy put together, or I shouldn't say it's unique really, but it's very specific to Daggerpaws. Amy, can you tell us what that specific way is and how Daggerpaws role plays that at the table?
So blood hunters in general, they have, as I mentioned, blood magic. So their spells tend to have the most effect on creatures that blood. So they can actually control creatures through their blood. And another thing that they can do is they can amplify the effects of their spells by basically using their own blood, or in other words, sacrificing some of their hit points. And the way that I'm playing this out in Dagger Paws is that she uses her claws and actually cuts through her arms mostly. She could do it anywhere really, but she favors doing it on her arms. And she especially likes to make really aggressive eye contact with the enemy while she does it. Just to add to sort of the impact of the spell.
Okay. So for those of you that didn't quite follow that, trigger warning. It's kind of self-harm, but it's not like the emotional side of self-harm. It's more giving a little nick on your hand or a little nick on your arm or something to get that drop a little blood to access the magic. So it doesn't have the emotional or psychological effect. It's purely a method of attaining that blood magic. So I just wanted to throw that out there for anybody that was thinking that. Maria says, Willie has a soft side and loves cute little friends. He's kind of indifferent about Vargas. Vargas is one of our other players due to him being a wolf kind, but plans to let him grow on him with this group, if that makes sense. Makes total sense. So having a cat-like creature being Tabaxi and a wolf-like creature being the wolf kind, they may not necessarily mix too well, just because of the stereotypical back and forth between cats and dogs. That's a great thing that you can look at to play with your character and how to roleplay them, because you know that Sir William may not necessarily like dogs, for the simple reason that cats don't like dogs, and you can kind of play that out at the table, which will be a really fun dynamic, because we actually have 2 Tabaxi cat-like people and 1 wolf. So it'll be a fun aspect at our table to have to see the different viewpoints and different interactions with Vargas from Dagger Paws and Sir William, who are both Tabaxi. So it's going to be fun to see how that's going to play out. Speaking of which, Amy, how would Dagger Paws react, or how does or could possibly Dagger Paws react to a wolf kind being in her midst?
Dagger Paws doesn't have any particular issues with wolves. She probably hasn't met one before. The particular meeting in our game last week. But she's never been raised to have, any particular issues with any different races or species. So she was just like, oh, well, that's interesting. It's a big wolf. And then saw how well everyone fought and was pleased with that. So, that's all she really needed to know.
Okay. All right. So we got some of the backstory, like the early backstory. Another possible roleplay type situation that you might find is, since, just kind of using this as an example, wolves tend to be more pack-like in their tactics. How does Dagger Paws, or from your experience in playing Tabaxi, how do you, playing your character, interact with others in tactical type situations, being an isolated type character that you've been for the last few months?
Dagger Paws, even within her culture, was always taught to be very innocent and not have to rely on others. She was taught tactics for when, she is in a group, and how group mates can be sort of taken advantage of. If you have a group member and you see, oh, this person's over here, then I can flank and get that advantage, but other than that, other than the possible advantages of having group members around, she doesn't really see them as useful. She sees independence as the better way, especially since that's how she has survived for so long. So now, heading into this new sort of thing that she's doing, this new job, it's not very surprising that the first thing we did going into that cave was everyone was just like, I'm going here, I'm going there. Because Dagger Paws was totally comfortable with that. She was just like, whatever, everyone go kill stuff. She didn't see any problem with that, other than the fact that, like, she almost died at one point, but then someone popped up and helped her, so she was like, great, that worked.
Using that situation that you were in near the end of last game, how would you go, since all the party basically split up and went different directions within this cave system? How would you, as Daggerpaws, attempt to bring everybody back together, not knowing specifically where they went to?
Daggerpaws might look at who she has ended up with, and who is still with her, and she might see if one of those people is willing to go round up who strayed away, if she feels that is necessary. If the people she has left she thinks are good enough for dealing with whatever's immediately around her, then she'll just be like, all right, cool, let's take care of this, it really depends on the situation. She might see, what's happening in her immediate surroundings.
Okay. So, since you currently don't know what's around you and you don't know of any other threats around you, would you go back in the direction you'd come to try to reunite with your party and maybe get the hostages out? Or would you, as a character, dive deeper into the cave system to see what was up ahead?
There was a big room off to the side that she thought she saw some interesting stuff in. She only got a glance of it because that big fish guy came around and started attacking her again. But it looked interesting in that direction, and she's curious. So she's probably going to want to go that way.
Okay. And the big fish guy that Amy's talking about was a Sahuagin, spelled Sahuagin. Kind of an aquatic merman type character without the fishtail. So we know that Daggerpaws is possibly going to push forward.
She does have that kitty curiosity gene. Mm-hmm. So she really oh, what was that? I gotta go see.
Depending on what's in that next room, because obviously I know I built the room and the cave system. Depending on what you find in there, would you kind of sneak in there and uncover what's in there, or would you just go rushing head in?
She is definitely not one to just go blasting in. She'll probably try to quietly take a closer look first before she just dives into the room, okay. Especially since most of her skills are ranged. So she can kind of take a peek and see if there's anything she can do first before just charging in.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That leads us to... So you wouldn't necessarily go rushing in. Once you saw what was in there, would you push forward and go into possible danger, or would you go back and try to reunite your party at that point?
Depends on what there is. If there's one or two guys, and I have, the same one or two people that are still with me, then I'd be like, oh, we can handle this, and say, let's go in there. If there's a whole ton of bad guys, then I'd be like, oh, maybe we should go get the other people that we were with, and then we can go in this room. So she understands tactics and numbers, well enough to not do something stupid.
Okay. So Marita kind of had a question along the same lines as what we've been talking about. She says, how the heck can we as a party navigate navigate areas, I'm guessing, when killing things and saving hostages? How do you kind of navigate that complexity of things you've got to do all at the same time?
So that's where you kind of look at your 6 main stats and think about what your character would prioritize. So if you've got, say, an intelligence modifier of +3 or 4, and your strength and dex are lower, then you might think that those hostages are, probably a little more important to save. You might be a little more, especially if you are in this area specifically because someone told you, oh, there's hostages, please go save them. Then you might prioritize that a little more. If you have an intelligence modifier that's 0 or negative, and you have a huge strength score, and your whole deal is like you're a barbarian type or something like that, you might forget about the hostages at the site of potential battle and just kind of charge over and focus on killing things. So you can use those scores as kind of a prompter of what would my character do in this situation? How smart am I? What am I going to be thinking about? And kind of help decide which direction should I go. Should I stop and free the hostage before I go on to kill the next thing? Stuff like that.
Okay. So let me just throw this in here real quickly. For all the people in our chat, or that are watching the video right now, if you have any questions for Amy or me as far as how to role-play character backstories or things you can do in specific situations, or how you can interpret doing things in certain situations, feel free to throw those in chat and we'll answer them as they all come up.
That's a great point too, Mariva. If there's something specific to your backstory, like having a code as a knight, then you can use that as well in making decisions. So having that part of your knight's code to save hostages would make that a little more important than going on to the next part, the next guy to kill. So yeah, stopping and freeing that hostage would be really important to your character.
Yep, that's an excellent point. Since Mariva is playing a Tabaxi knight, I think she's leaning towards the Eldritch Knight side of things. As a knight, you'll probably have some kind of moral code that your character lives by. Probably. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way, but it's just me thinking out loud. That would kind of say prioritize the living over the dead, because the dead are already dead. You can't really help them as much. So one way you could possibly look at Sir William's current path within this cave system is that you just rescued one prisoner, or one captive, from these spiders that you'd encountered. So my thought would be you could possibly stick with that prisoner, get them freed from the webbing, maybe try to bring them back to consciousness, and maybe find out who they are and how you can get them back to safety. So that would be one possible way that you can look at how you can rescue that hostage and get them to a safe place before pressing deeper. So between Sir William and Daggerpaws, since we have two Tabaxis right there, that are kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum of, I wouldn't necessarily say morality, but opposite ends of the spectrum of goals and what drives them. For Sir William being a knight, it's a drive to do things that preserve life, that help to save lives. Whereas, unless I'm mistaken, Amy, for Dagger Paws, that would be interpreted more as going after the danger and eliminating the danger.
Absolutely. So this is not something that sort of is widely known by the other players yet, but in her culture, the purpose of them being blood hunters, the purpose of their magic was to guard this rift into the Underdark and protect basically the world from the monsters that come from there. So they use this blood magic, this dark magic, to slay evil monsters. That was her whole purpose in life as she was trained and raised. So even now, having left her people, she still holds by those ideals, as to slay dangerous things and use the things she's learned to, protect the world from danger.
Okay. Wonderful. Let's see. Where should we go from there?
Mariva has a question about how one wakes up a hostage. So Mariva, most of the time that would be a medicine check, unless you have a healing spell.
Yep. Yeah, healing spells or health potions are possible ways. Using a medicine skill check, which is actually on your character sheet in this big long skill section, that can sometimes do it as well. So by rolling high enough with that medicine check, you could possibly wake them up. That would be including things like patching them up with bandages or whatever, or splashing water in their face and giving them some water to drink, things like that. That's kind of included in helping to wake up an unconscious person. So yeah, you can definitely ask anytime, Mariva. There's no stupid questions, no stupid answers. Some answers might be a little more off the wall than others, but they're all good. Yeah, smacking and shaking, another possible option for waking somebody up. Let's see.
You can always ask the DM, I think I want to try this to do it. Would it work? What would I roll? And the DM can always help you out there.
Exactly. Yeah, not every DM will do it, but in my games, I love being able to have the players tell me what they want to do and how they want to do something. And then, in my viewpoint, it's the DM's job to adjudicate how that happens, or if it can happen. If it's something that's not going to happen, really, you can always try, give the players a chance to roll, and then have a DC so freaking high that they'll never meet it anyways. But on occasion, they might actually make it. So it's you always have to leave that option open at the top end for possibilities to happen, just in case. But I love giving my players the chance to role play things out, tell me how they want to accomplish something, and then trying to see if we can get it to work. Sometimes it makes the DM.
Are you the type of dungeon master, Sarah, where if the DC is super, super high, but if the player gets a natural 20, it still succeeds?
It'll depend on the situation for me. There are some things that are just, it's not going to happen. But I want my players to at least try. I don't want them to say, I don't want to be able the type of DM that says, it's not going to happen, don't even worry about trying. I always want my players to try. So I always leave a top end range. So if I've got like a DC of 24 or 25 or 30, and a player rolls in that 20, I'll automatically give them an additional 5 on top of that 20, just because they rolled the nat 20. And then it's the possibility of their modifiers might bump it even further. So there's always possibilities. Um, let's see. So let's see. Trying to think of other things we can think of. Um, so since this past Saturday was our very first game in that campaign, um, and all of the players were just meeting for the first time. What did you think as far as having this group pieced together so quickly as a character? What would Daggerpaws think about this group coming together as a group so quickly?
Um, so she was given a request for a job and a request to recruit people for that job. So she did that, and she got really lucky that she just kind of found people at the tavern right there that were willing to jump right in and do the job. So, she felt like she was having a super lucky day, especially since they all turned out to actually be qualified for the job that she needed. So she felt like she was having a super lucky day, and she was really happy about that, even though it all happened like really fast.
Okay. Um, do you see Daggerpaws taking more of a leadership role, or more of a I'll see how things go role, or what kind of role do you see Daggerpaws taking in the party at this early stage?
Um, I feel like she's hesitant to be in a leadership role right now because she doesn't really trust herself in that position. She doesn't want to get anyone else hurt, and she's still hesitant to use certain skills. So she definitely wants to see how things go and maybe let someone else take the very front and kind of stay back just a step.
Okay. Um, so obviously we don't know what's coming up yet, but um, if an opportunity presented itself for Daggerpaws to take more of a leadership role, how would you role play that?
If like one of the other characters or something else sort of presented her with um, the idea of her being in charge, she would probably just sort of quietly say no thanks and suggest one of the other people do it instead, because she doesn't really want to have that burden on her right now.
Mm-hmm.
So she doesn't know these people well enough to really get into why, so she would refuse to really talk about it. But she would definitely just kind of say, no, no, don't want to talk about it. Just make someone else do it. It's not me.
Okay. As a player, what kind of advice would you give to other players and their characters for possible options for going back and forth between the leadership and followership roles?
So think about the character that you're playing and what would they actually feel is right for them. Are they a natural leader or are they not? So even if you personally are new to the game and don't feel like you are a leader, or maybe you personally in real life don't feel like you are a leader, what does your character feel like? What is right for your character? It's great to learn through your character what being a leader feels like. Do what's right for your character, not what you would normally do in real life. A knight is definitely a leader type character that would step forward a little more and take charge of the group. Whereas, a bard, they're they're such a, high charisma, like, front of the stage type person, that, even though they're not going to be like front of the battle, they're still going to be front of the group because they're used to being center of attention. So think about what is right for your character, and the way that they should be played, versus, what necessarily you have done. Whereas maybe a rogue, right? They want to be more in the shadows. They don't want to be front of the group all the time. So they may not necessarily be a leader, or want to be a leader, right? So Mariva has asked, does my certification of completing leadership training in real life 13 years ago count? So yeah, fine, sure. You have absolutely got some real life experience in that area too. Awesome. But that doesn't necessarily mean, you have to be the leader in the group, but your character absolutely would make a great example of someone who would be more of a leader type character anyway.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, leadership and followership tend to go back and forth a lot in role-playing games, because you've got multiple different people playing their characters at the table. So I know in our game we've got 6 different people, besides myself as the DM, playing their characters. And each of those characters is going to specialize or excel in a certain area. So while Daggerpaws as a blood hunter might be really good at hunting things, and finding the way to get to things or through certain areas, that would be Daggerpaw's specialty. So in those instances, she would actually take a leadership role for that. But in matters of nobility and or morality, it could easily be seen that Sir William would take more of a leadership role as far as being more proper and or possibly more proper depending on his background, and wanting to lead the group in like courtly affairs or warfare or things like that, where it needs specific tactics to accomplish a certain given situation. Whereas Air Brandy's character, which is a gnome bard named Glint, they would be great at social leadership, leading social events and social interactions within the game. Vargas, who is a wolf-kind druid, would be really great as far as interacting with nature and things, dealing with like nature-based things as a druid. Then we have Zadkiel, who is played by Alta Mirage, who may or may not be in the chat right now, I don't know. But she plays Zadkiel is in a Fallen Aasimar barbarian. So the barbarian type role would be excellent at leading in like full-on assaults, like throw caution to the wind and just go head first into battle, because they're going to be right at the front. And then we've also got an Eladrin elf rogue, which their character comes from a dark and shady location over on Chult, which is kind of southwest of what we're playing right now. And Alia, who's the rogue, would be great at sneaking, like leading in stealth and subterfuge and things like that. So every character is going to have their own specialties, their own places and encounters where they're going to excel and they're going to take more of a leadership position. So speaking of leadership, I want to jump back into the game just slightly. with the leadership aspect coming into play, with Daggerpaws pushing forward into the cave further, how would leadership, or how could you role play the leadership aspect for Daggerpaws in that specific situation that you're about to get into?
So I think the most sort of leadership that she might show is, again, as I mentioned, we just sort of defeated this large fishy guy, and she saw this room out of the corner of her eye that looked interesting. So the couple of other characters that she's currently with right now, she might say, oh, look at this, let's quietly take a look in here and see what we can see, if we need to collect everyone else, or if we can kind of proceed into this area, just the three of us. So, that would be showing a little bit of leadership there amongst just those couple of people. But that she would be comfortable with, and it's not like the entire group that she's leading, it's just those couple of people.
Okay. So on the off chance that the other three manage to catch up to you, because we've got a total party of six, on the off chance that the other three, or that everybody's able to come back together before you head into that room, how could Daggerpaws take a leadership role with everybody in attendance, as opposed to just the two that are with you now?
If everybody catches up first, then she might just mention that the room looked interesting, and then sort of see what the group wants to do, and kind of step back a little bit from sort of saying, let's do this, and make it more of a suggestion and let the group decide.
Okay. Considering the other characters that we currently have in the game, what are some ways that Daggerpaws could not necessarily push off leadership, but more offer that leadership role to the other characters in that specific situation that you're in?
If Sir Willie is in the room, for example, she would also know, she doesn't know much about, some of the other characters and races and what their sort of special abilities might be as far as dark vision and their sight and what that is like, right? But she does know that Sir Willie would also have the same 60-foot dark vision that she's got. So she might ask Sir Willie, oh, do you want to go take a look and see what's in there, with me or by yourself or whatever, and we can kind of scope out and decide what we want to do.
Okay, perfect. Before I jump into any more of my questions, did you have any questions or anything that you wanted to specifically mention? Throw you on the spot there.
I don't know. I can't think of anything right now.
Okay.
What can you tell me about the game? Are there any secrets?
Oh, there's plenty of secrets. Yep, we got more cave to explore. You've got hostages to rescue. You've already got another follow-on quest that you know that you're already planning for. Let's do this. Let me throw another random situation at you. You can use Daggerpaws or any of the other characters that you've played. Let's say, because I know that, actually we'll just stick with Daggerpaws, make it easy. I know that Daggerpaws comes from an area, at least 1,000 miles or so to the east of where we're actually starting out the game. Has Daggerpaws ever seen a dragon?
I don't know. Do you think, as the DM, do dragons get out that way very much?
Well, dragons are all over the place. It's just a question of if Daggerpaws has actually seen them.
I would figure, with all of her travels in the years that she, since she was exiled, she's been kind of all over the place now. I would think that she has at least seen one from a distance.
Okay.
Probably not up close, but from a distance, I think she has seen one.
Can she recall what color it was?
I think the one that she saw from a distance was golden.
Golden? Okay. Got it. So I'm taking notes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you know that possibly golden dragons exist. Does she believe that there are other colors of dragons? Metallic, chromatic, gem, elemental?
She's heard rumors that they come in as many colors as you can imagine.
Okay.
She's not sure if that's true, but obviously she knows there's at least one.
Okay. From the other colors and types, does she have a favorite?
She met someone once who swore that they saw a dragon that was this crazy rainbow color. She would love to see that because she thinks it would be really pretty.
I'm hoping you mean more the prismatic dragon versus the Tiamat.
Yeah, that's probably what the guy was referring to. And so, yeah, she thinks that would be really pretty. Even if it's dangerous, like, she'd like to see it from a distance.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right, so now we're going to get into the roleplay aspect of that. How would you roleplay Daggerpaw's first actual encounter with a dragon? Whether it be the golden dragon or the prismatic dragon or possibly some chromatic version of dragon.
So if it's a friendly one, she would purr a lot and probably want to pet it. Because, it's just they seem kind of neat, and she likes meeting all sorts of different creatures. And especially if they're pretty, she is like pansexual in the broadest meaning of the term.
Mm-hmm.
She will get busy with literally anything that's pretty. So
you're saying that Daggerpaws is taking on some of that stereotypical bard.
Except without all the charisma. Like, she doesn't have the charisma of a bard, but she still tries.
Okay, so how about if the dragon is not so friendly?
If the dragon's not so friendly, she would admire it from a distance and still be like, oh, it's pretty, but it wants to hurt me now, so I better do something about that.
Okay. Can you kind of go into a little more depth on how that would play out via roleplay?
So when they first see it, she'd probably purr a little bit. But then if it starts attacking, she'd probably be like her hair would all pop up and she'd be like, oh shit. And maybe she'd freeze a little, not sure what to do, because there's this warring part of her that's like, it's pretty, what do I do? So maybe that first round she'd be like, I don't know what to do, and maybe even, not even act because she's not sure what to do. So those are some, interesting ways that could play out.
Okay. I'm going to change it up just a little bit and see how Dagger Paws would react in this situation. Same type of question as far as how she would react to this type of creature. So it's not going to be a dragon this time.
Okay.
How would she react? Because I'm pretty sure she has probably never seen a gelatinous cube.
Nope, she's never encountered one of those before. So she'd be very curious. So that curiosity gene would just go raging, and she'd just be like, poke, poke. Oh, what the fuck is this? She would have to touch it.
Even would she touch it more than once, knowing that it's going to hurt her after that first one?
Well, the first time, after it hurts her the first time, she'd probably figure that out, and then be like, oh shit, don't do that again. But yeah, she would definitely have to touch it once and see what happens, because she'd be very curious. But yeah, she's got a pretty high intelligence. She's smart enough to learn, don't do that again, and then go from there.
So Halicon73 says, time's up, let's do this. Runs into scenario swinging a two-handed sword and chops the fuck out of all the dragons. Then I swing around and slice Mariva vertically. Big yell. Grab all the loot, grab both the girls over my horse, and set fire to the place on my way out. By the way, don't touch the cube. Basic Dungeons & Dragons set rules. Yeah. Different scenarios are going to play out different ways, and various characters are going to react to things in different ways, especially if they've never especially if they've never encountered them before. So it's fun to see how each character will react within a given situation, and that's all through role play, because most characters starting out early in the game will never have seen, or will probably have never seen, most of the things that they're going to encounter. So it's a large sense of wonderment. It's a sense of wonder. It's a sense of uncertainty and fear and excitement, all wrapped up into one. And it's basically the player's job to kind of interpret how that plays out through the character. So it's fun to see those things play out. So here's another one for you. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Oh, there's so many good, because I'm trying to think of various grain prompts that I've put out. Being from a very close-knit society, how does Dagger Paws react and interact with persons of other cultures and other countries and other languages?
So she was raised in this very close, sort of secretive society, but the whole purpose that she was raised with was, we're here to protect and serve the world by protecting them from this, potential evil. So she wasn't raised with any, racism or anything like that, because she was raised with her whole purpose of protecting everyone else. So when she does get a chance to get out and interact with these people that she is supposed to protect, she kind of sees them as like, sometimes she sees them almost a little bit as children. They're her little kids. They're her, her little children that she's there to protect. Even the ones that are absolutely enormous, Mariva's character is 7 feet tall and 300 pounds. And, Daggerpaws still just kind of looks at Mariva's character as, they're from, a different group of tabaxis. So they're still, part of the world that she protects. So they're kind of like children to her, even the ones that are older than her, all of them,
Okay. So that kind of gives me a little transition into what Halicon was saying just a moment ago, as far as player interaction with each other, as through their characters. How would you, as a player, through your character, play through interactions and scenarios where another party member might be going down the complete wrong path into, like, for lack of a better way of putting it, the dark side of things?
So she would definitely try to right away start doing something about that. If she can turn them to the light, as they say, she would try to do that. But if it's necessary, she would absolutely kill.
Okay. So that could bring up some very interesting inter-party dynamics. As a player, how would you handle that type of situation?
So it depends on if the other player is playing accurately out of something that is happening to their character. Like, let's say they picked up a cursed item and they're playing that accurately, what that's doing to their character, then yeah, let's play that out accurately and all work on, we'll all work together on what is happening to your character. If the other player is just like being an asshole and deciding that their character is becoming an asshole, then maybe we all need to sit down and have a chat as a group out of the game about what's going on. So it really depends on the situation and how true to the game it is.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. If it's actually fitting the storyline, then it's something that can be worked with. But when it's a player just throwing themselves into the character and doing that damaging type stuff, then it becomes a serious issue for players and the DM and the storyline and everything. So it's always important to keep those types of things in mind when we are looking at those situations. But I like that you brought up the cursed item effect, because there are a lot of cursed items, weapons and armor and other things within the various RPG games out there. As a player, through your character, Daggerpaws, what is one type of weapon or equipment or jewelry or whatever that Daggerpaws might be the most afraid of?
Afraid of?
As far as cursed or sentient items.
I'm not sure. I haven't really thought of whether she has any specific fears of items yet. I think she would just be cautious of all potentially cursed objects in general, but she doesn't know a lot about how to identify magical items. So, that's just sort of a thing in the back of her mind, is that like all magical objects could potentially be cursed. Oh, you've gone muted. Oh, there it is. Okay.
All right. So my mic does its own thing sometimes. So I'll probably have to reboot my computer after this is over. But let me see. What was I saying?
Your response to my fear of cursed items in general thing.
Yes. So was since my brain just had a total derailment. The question that I was asking, I can't. I'll let you finish answering. Was if your character is afraid of like magic type of things, is that just a general fear that she has, or is it more of a fear that's derived from her tribe's purpose?
I would say that it's more derived from her tribe's purpose. They've probably encountered such objects being so close to the Underdark. Maybe monsters that have brought them up, or things like that. So she knows that those kind of objects exist. She just doesn't have a lot of experience in how to identify them. So she personally wouldn't know what to do or how to fix it if she came across one.
Okay. So going off of that, if she did come into possession of such an item, say like a crossbow or a sword or some kind of armor or something, and it started a process of trying to corrupt Daggerpaws, how would she react to that? And how would you roleplay that?
So let's say she gets a dagger that makes her, more, a tendency more towards evilness, and so I would start making her more murderous at first, just kind of wanting to kill things. And then if I would probably consult with you as the DM to find out how aware of this process she is, to see how much I could play that, and have her maybe conflicted about some of the things that she is doing, and see if I can kind of have her try to alert the other people she's with. Like maybe I feel weird about things, I feel like something's happening to me, as she starts, becoming more and more, having things going on, maybe accidentally aim towards a party member and just barely miss, things like that. And if she is aware, she can be trying to fight this stuff going on with her. If she's not aware, at the DM's discretion, then, it's up to the other characters to, if they notice that something's definitely not the way it was before, she starts to act differently.
Okay.
So it's just, it kind of depends on the story that the DM wants to go along with that cursed item, and how you want to play that out together.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, with cursed items and sentient items, they can bring a lot of interesting things into the game, as far as corrupting effects or helpful effects. Sometimes the corrupting effects might be viewed as helpful effects. Using the first campaign of Critical Role, the Vox Machina part of it. There was a character called Percy, or Percival, played by Taliesin Jaffe, who had a cursed gun, a cursed pistol, that it followed along the path that Percy was going after and had his purposes in mind, but it had a very dark side to it. And so those types of items, they can sometimes align with your character's purposes. How would Dagger Paws and you play through and roleplay that type of situation where this item had your goals in mind? It was using your goals as a way to feed itself.
Let's say it's an evil dagger that wants to collect souls or something like that. But it is sentient enough to kind of pick up on the fact that I have certain things that I prefer to kill. So it kind of wants to use that to make me more inclined, make me more murderous and get me to kill more monsters. And it's using my desire to protect the world from monsters. And so I wouldn't really then mind that so much. I'd be like, well, I feel like this dagger's a little weird, but, I already want to do this. And it's a pretty cool dagger. It seems really like more effective than a normal dagger, and it's helping me kill, these monsters. So I would be really cool with it, and I would want to keep the dagger even if other players are noticing weird things going on. I'd be very resistant to getting rid of it because it's helping me do something that I already want to do. So I would kind of play up that, like, getting, again, more into what I want to do, and, let's go, even if we're like say we're between two quests, I'd be like, oh, let's go find something to take care of. I bet there's some of these right over there, and, see if we can fit in little side quests like that. There's little things you can do to kind of add that kind of stuff to your story.
Perfect. So kind of going along that same vein, how far would Dagger Paws and you role-playing through Dagger Paws, how far would you go to keeping that particular item and not getting rid of it, since it is serving your character's purposes? How far, it's kind of like an addiction type thing. How far would you go to keep it?
Absolutely. If one of the other characters tried to take it from me, she would absolutely fight them for it.
Okay.
So, it would be like full, we'd have to roll initiative type deal that she would fight them for it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Let's see. So, chat. For those of you that are currently in chat, if you have any questions for Amy or for myself, as far as various ways to role-play characters, based off of your character's backstories, go ahead and throw those in chat and we will answer them as they come up. We've already had some great conversations coming up from all of you as far as different ways to roleplay them and different scenarios and things like that. So throw them in chat, keep them coming. We'll stay on here as long as you want to keep asking. Let's see, trying to think of another good backstory prompt. So for Dagger Paws, we know that she's pansexual in the broadest sense of the word. Depending on the other players' outlooks through their characters, what are your thoughts, or Dagger Paws' thoughts, on inter-party relationships?
So as a player, I am all for exploring those kinds of things, as long as everyone in the group is comfortable for exploring that kind of stuff. As a group, we've already sort of established that kind of stuff is okay. So Dagger Paws, she is not necessarily interested in long-term relationships right now, but she is absolutely interested in, finding some people to have some fun with. And she already knows that these people are fun because they have held their own in these battles. So she knows that she can have all kinds of fun with them. And so Air Brandy is asking which character in our campaign is Daggerpaws the most interested in getting to know more right now. I would say that right now, after having watched Glint's performance all night right before getting together with the whole group, she is probably a little bit interested in getting to know Glint a little more. She was very happy that Glint ended up staying with the party so that she could do that.
Yeah. One of these days, depending on how our campaign goes, I may actually post our games on YouTube. I'm recording them via Zoom, so you won't get all the maps, but eventually we may decide to live stream them later. But one thing you'll discover is that Glint is very addictive. I mean, people are addicted to Glint just because of how amazingly fun and funny and cute and adorable she is, all wrapped into this little tiny gnome. It's absolutely adorable. She's an absolute riot. Yeah. So yeah, we are definitely playing through that, and it's exciting to see these character interactions. As far as the relationship aspects go for Dagger Paws, knowing that she's not currently ready for long-term relationships, do you as a player foresee the possibility of somewhere down the road maybe introducing that into her storyline?
She might heal enough eventually to stay with one person for, a longer time. She was raised in a very pansexual society, a very polyamorous society.
Mm-hmm.
She is also open to the idea of multiple long-term partners at the same time. It just depends on where she ends up eventually.
Okay. For this next question, for those of you in the chat that are part of this campaign, take notes. Is there anything that Dagger Paws looks for in particular in a possible partner?
Right now, the thing that she looks for most is someone that can make her laugh. She has spent so much time so depressed about what happened that making her laugh is the number one most important thing that she looks for, because she doesn't laugh very much at all. Mm-hmm. So if you can make her laugh, she will just take you straight to the nearest bedroom she can find.
So, Air Brandy, you can take note of that. For Glint. All right. So, Mariva wants to know, what about children as far as for Dagger Paws? Does Dagger Paws want to have them and carry on the Tabaxi way?
She hasn't really thought about it. She right now probably is not very interested in children, but eventually maybe she would think about it.
Okay. Brandy, I wish we could have heard that hop. um, so Helican, yeah, good character development is always key to being able to role play these types of situations, as far as starting from the beginning and working your way through each step of it. So, like with any good relationship here in the real world, it takes work, it takes effort, it takes time and patience, and there's going to be fights, there's going to be loving, there's going to be all up and down the spectrum of various things that go on within that relationship. So, yeah, roleplay gives us an opportunity to understand ourselves and what we really want out of our life for ourselves. That's definitely true for Halcon. That's definitely true for me. How true is that for you?
It absolutely is true for me as well. I think roleplay is a great way to explore different aspects of yourself that either need to heal or to maybe you need to learn about. So, if you're struggling with something in your past, or if you're struggling with something currently that you need to kind of work through, you can put that into your character and kind of play it out in different scenarios. Because, the real world doesn't let you redo things 1,000 times or practice conversations 1,000 times, but you can role play and pretend that your character is going through what you might be, and kind of work through things. So you can put aspects of yourself into things and really kind of heal through that.
Mm-hmm. Which is a great transition. A little bit. Can you give us any examples of personal aspects that we can put into our characters, and maybe possibly give us some ideas of optional ways to role play it?
Say you are a very socially anxious person. You could try playing a bard, and see how you feel in various different situations, trying to put yourself into those socially upfront situations where you are trying to sing little songs for your party, and or create little limericks or whatever style you wanted your bard to be, and just trying to be that person who is just so big and open and not afraid of everything, in the comfort of just a couple of your friends, where it's not a big group of people, where, maybe you are like doing something fun, your character is doing something in front of a big group of people, but the big group of people is pretend, so you personally don't have to be in front of the big group of people, but you can just kind of pretend you are and work through some of that social anxiety in that way.
Okay. I know that one aspect of roleplay that is sometimes seen within RPGs is the aspect of role-playing various sexualities. Whether sometimes it could be the player wanting to express their sexuality but being afraid to do it in real life. Maybe they'll try to role play it through the game and see how it's taken among their friends, to see how open they might be to the possibility of that player coming out of the closet, as the saying goes. In your experience, playing various different sexualities or genders, how easy is it for you to explore those, and what is kind of some of the reception that you've gotten doing that?
I think role-playing games are a great place to kind of figure that kind of stuff out. If you are unsure about gender or sexuality, play a role-playing game and play something different than what you are or think you are. and just see what it feels like to try something else on for a little bit. And it's a great way to work through and see what something else feels like, and really just dive into that character and be that character for a little while. If you're feeling unsure about gender, play a different gender for a little while. If you're feeling unsure about sexuality, play a different sexuality, and just really dive into that and see what it feels like to be something else, until you find the one where you go, oh, this one feels good. And it can really help you kind of work through, and figure out which one fits, without having to just kind of think about it out in the world where people might be scary, especially if you already know you have friends who are really open. But even if you're not sure, sometimes you can do it with friends who have no idea you're going through that, and you can just play different things.
Yeah. The role playing of various scenarios can bring up a lot of really helpful tools to be able to work through different issues in our lives, and getting to test out the various sexualities or genders that a player might be through their characters is a great way to do that. But sometimes things are introduced in the game, either from the DM or from one of the players, that is more of a darker nature. I know that for some people, the ideas of rape or torture or murder or other dark things that players may have lived through are introduced in the games. What are your thoughts as far as having those types of things in the game and then being presented with options to role play through them?
So, first of all, I would say more people than you think have been through something really horrible. So, as a DM, and as a player, if you want to introduce something like that to a game, definitely sit down with the entire group and say, I'd like to put this into the game. How does everybody feel about that? Some people might be interested in using roleplay to kind of work through those old issues and kind of get it out of their head and onto the table.
Pause for just a second. I want to say thank you, Halicon, for the subscription and the follow. You're actually so amazing. Thank you so much. All right.
Okay. And other people might just be too triggered by even bringing it up and not want to have it in this place that's supposed to be fun for them. So it's going to really vary, and it just really needs to be talked about in advance so that you don't surprise your players and make something fun into something not fun.
Exactly. Yeah, those types of situations, I think, are need to be discussed among the players and the DM before they're ever actually introduced into the game. And it's not a situation where you can just have one player talk to the DM or DM talk to one player about it and then introduce it. Everybody at the table needs to know about these situations before they're brought up in the game so that everybody can prepare themselves if it's actually to be brought into the game. I know that I was recently in a game where in the guidelines that the DM had set out before the game had ever started, it said no torture or no explicit torture. And then I think it was like 4, maybe 5 games in, there was a scene where my character was forced to watch another party member being tortured right in front of her. For me, that was a total no-go because I had never been informed that was going to happen. And there was something in my past, as far as when I was in the Air Force, part of the training was going through like survival training, which also included like a POW interrogation torture scenarios. And So having to face that in the game without ever having it brought up was a total no-go for me. It gave me nightmares for weeks because of it. So that's why you always want to discuss as an entire group the possibilities of these situations being introduced into the game, so that if it's a no-go for a player, it's not introduced. If everybody agrees that it can be put in there, at least they'll have a chance to prepare themselves for it. They'll know that it's coming up, and they can prepare themselves mentally to be able to handle that type of situation.
Yeah, exactly. Like with my character, even though the use of her blood magic isn't strictly like exactly the same as with typical self-harm, I did warn everybody. The character has some, self-harm like use of magic. And I explained exactly what would be going on, and I said I could rework and redo the character if that would bother anybody.
Exactly. Halikon says, it's just nice to be able to escape from the responsibilities and expectations of life. Exactly. So even though not every situation will be dark, some will be of lighter fare, such as playing out the sexualities or different relationship type things. Being able to discuss those things as players and being able to prepare for them in advance goes a long way towards the enjoyment of the game, which is the whole reason why we play the games, is to be able to enjoy them, to get as much out of them as far as enjoyment goes as possible. So it's always good to have players that are, this may not be the exact best way to put it, but I'm going to say this anyways, to have players that are mature enough to actually think out these different things and how they might affect different players. So it's good to have those conversations at the table, or even before you get to the table, to see what everybody's boundaries and limitations are. So it's good that we have those types of conversations.
Absolutely. And that's not to say that, like, you can't play Dungeons and Dragons with kids and teens.
Oh, exactly.
You absolutely can. You would have a similar conversation with those players just about, like, look, we're going to keep this to topics that are, appropriate for your age. Let's not talk about these kinds of things in this game.
Exactly. Yeah, like one of our players, Mariva, I know that they are afraid of spiders, and if I remember correctly, Mariva, it wasn't actually a phobia. It's more like you just don't like them. Period. Well, at the beginning of our game that we're playing, that we started this past Saturday, we're starting in the city of Volothomp, which is down in the country of Kalimshan, in Faerun. And right next to it is a place called the Spider Swamp. I didn't make that up. It was on the map. It was already pre-designed into the entire game's system. Yes, I could have moved the starting location to somewhere else, but I've already planned that. So what I did was I made sure to discuss it with her first, to let her know that there's this place called the Spider Swamp. There's a very high possibility that there's going to be some spiders coming through that you'll unfortunately be faced with. But the good part is you'll get to kill them and squash them and get rid of them. So it's a great way, or one possible way. I'll put it that way. It's one possible way to deal with a fear, is to discuss with the player first, obviously, and then introduce it in slow, small ways, so that they can work through, not necessarily beyond, but work through some of that fear of it. I will say that with the Spider Swamp, I'm going to do my best to not introduce a ton of spiders. I do have some spiders and spider-like creatures that will be coming up through that spider swamp area. But as soon as they're past the spider swamps, I'm going to mostly ignore spiders throughout the rest of the game. They might come up every now and then, but because I know it's a fear for one of my characters or for one of my players, I'm going to try to eliminate it as much as possible and always make sure that the player is aware that these things are coming up so that they can prepare themselves for it. See, Halikan says, the sexuality and mental health of life is a difficult thing. As you say, having an opportunity to let go of all that in real life is something massively beneficial to people, definitely to myself. Absolutely, Halikan. It's always good to know who we are, to know our boundaries, and to use those together to dive into our imaginations and the imaginations of those at the table with us to create a game that's enjoyable for everyone. Like with the spiders, I know that when one of my players has a fear, I'm giving them opportunities to kill spiders. What could be a better way than to get rid of spiders is to kill them, at least in game. In real life, they're actually helpful, but they're still icky. Ew. So I wanted to give my player a chance to kill spiders and to get rid of the spiders that are tormenting the area. But I always work with the player first to make sure that that limit is not broken. Mariva, I will say that once we get into the spider swamp, there will be the possibility of spider-like creatures that are kind of a mix between, or a hybrid between spiders and humanoids. They're called Aranea. So just to let you know that those might be coming up, so that you can prepare yourself. But the good thing is you get to kill them too. Hopefully. Did anybody else in chat have any more questions that they wanted to throw in the direction of Amy or myself as far as role-playing character backstories or role-playing characters in games based on specific topics? I'll give you a minute or two to think about it and to type your questions or whatever. Amy, have you thought of any questions that you would like to ask me?
I can't think of anything.
Nothing at all?
No, you were pretty thorough today.
All right. Thank you,
I've been going for a couple of hours now, so I think that's pretty good.
All right. Fabulous. Well, I want to thank all of our amazing audience members, Halkan, Mariva, Air Brandy. Let's see, who else did we have? I know we had at least one more in there. So I want to thank everybody for coming to our chat and having fun with us and giving us some great things to talk about as far as how you can or possible ways that you can role play your characters based off of the character backstories that you write. So as you're going through and you're thinking about ways to create your characters' backstories, I would like to introduce you to our grain prompts, which we have many of them on our website, a lot of them via our social media as well, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. All of those are linked in our About section below the live stream down here on our About page. So that you can click on those links, but I will actually post them all here in chat as well, so that you can just click on them and go. What our grain prompts are just backstory writing prompts. So these are just prompts that give you ideas of things you can consider when writing your backstory. And they're not specific to Dungeons & Dragons. You can actually apply these character backstory prompts to any game system, meaning Dungeons & Dragons, Warhammer, Warhammer 40k, Pathfinder, Starfinder, Stargate, RPG, Star Wars RPG, Call of Cthulhu, and any of the others that are out there as far as creating your character backstories. So definitely check those out. And as another note, our Questlandia games are on the second and fourth Fridays of each month. Our next one is going to be this coming up Friday, so a week from today. And that will be which game, Amy?
That'll be Herbals Fools, and it will be a fun little themed April Fool's game.
Fabulous. So that'll be, as far as we know right now, we'll be live streaming that at 3 p.m. Pacific next Friday. We've got a great cast of characters that are coming up with some really interesting characters that they're going to be playing. I'll be playing a character named Phoebe, who is a tiefling, what did I say, druid? I can't even remember now. I think I made her a druid. But yeah, she's a great little character that I'm going to have a lot of fun playing. So definitely make sure you tune in for that. If you need any assistance with building your character backstories, you can definitely hop into our Discord server and join our community. And the Discord community is all about helping each other to build and craft character backstories. And it's also a great way to join in our Questlandia games too, if you want. So hop in there, let us know if you want to join the games, and we'll bring you into the group. And if anyone is interested in being a guest on our live Q&As that we do on the first Friday of each month, definitely let me know either here in chat on Twitch or via our Discord community, and we'll think of some ways that we can bring you into our live Q&As. If we have more than one person in a specific Q&A, like 2 or 3 of us or whatever, even more is better. It brings in more conversations. So definitely let us know. Might even be asking a few of you if you would be interested in joining in on our Q&As at the beginning of each month. So until next time, which will be Monday for another episode of Monday Movies. I haven't picked out which movie we're going to be watching this coming up Monday, but it'll be 6 p.m. Pacific. The movie is basically just a way for us to come together, get out of our isolation, watch a movie together, have some conversation. Last week we played Moulin Rouge, which is a musical. I did some singing along, and I think Amy did some singing along out there in the living room as well. So yeah, there's just various things that we do during the movies. So definitely come and check that out. And then we will keep the cycle going. Definitely keep a tab on our schedule, which you'll find here on our Twitch page to keep up with what's coming up. Halicon, no problem with being a Twitch noob. No problem at all. All the interviews like we're doing right now, they're all via Zoom. So we basically start up a Zoom call, and then I just import the video into Twitch. Makes it really simple. So you don't have to know Twitch at all. So it makes it really, really simple. But yeah, we would love to have you in our live Q&A. So until next time, I want to say thank you again to everyone. And if you're going out into public, like we're about to do, go shopping, make sure you wear a mask, social distance as necessary. When it comes time to get your vaccine, go ahead and get it so that we get this COVID-19 knocked out as quickly as possible. And I guess that closes us out. Was there any last thoughts you had, Amy?
No, I don't think so. Have a great night, everyone, and I will see you sometime on our Discord or somewhere else on the storytelling universe.
All right, we'll see y'all later. Love you. Bye-bye.